over 300 exhibitors, and the whole point of Holiday World is in the age when it's very, very hard to get someone to talk to. It's very, very hard to get a face at the, that you can actually engage, look into their eyes and ask them the hard questions about travel. There's loads of information. We've never had as much information, but when you actually go looking for answers to questions, it's much harder to get them than ever before. Lots of everyone that comes to this show tends to be knowledgeable about travel. They tend to be well researched. They just want to bring it to that step more. Obviously, throughout this hall, we have 300 exhibitors and nearly 2,000 travel professionals, all of them very well versed in their subject. And as a little icing on the cake, over the next 3 days in this theatre, this little theatre here, with the thanks to the good people of Dublin Airport who have put this together, we will be also bringing people on stage who are knowledgeable about travel. These are the superstars of the industry, the guys who actually have travelled a lot, who sell holidays, and who know everything about the airport experience. They know the secrets of the trade. What I'm going to do is try and get some of the secrets of travel from these people, and I want them to you to ask really hard questions. I want you to everything that you want to know about travel. This is your opportunity. It's the only opportunity the general public have. A lot of us get press conference access to travel professionals. This is your opportunity to ask the questions and get the answers. And I want a great deal of positivity out of this, but I'll be talking through people from all the different industries, and I want you to leave this show feeling you've got something worthwhile out of it. I am very, very pleased to say my very first guest is one of the most knowledgeable people about travel in this country. You all know her because for many, many years she was the lead presenter in No Frontiers, the RTE primetime travel publication. Sadly, Kathryn Thomas has now gone to the dark side. She's gone to things like Operation Transformation and things like that. But we are very, very glad to get an hour of Kathryn talking about a subject close to her heart again, once more, which is travel. Ladies and gentlemen, big round of applause for Kathryn Thomas.
Thank you. How are you doing?
Very, very good.
Nice to see you all. Are you in good form? Great. Now, I know I'm promoting health and fitness, but if you said an hour, I'm going to sit for most of this. Is that all right?
Yeah. We'll let you sit down. We should
take a seat.
You, as long as you don't put me through my paces and get me to do press-ups and all of that.
It's great
Kathryn,
to see you.
a lot of the people in the room will be familiar with your new project because it's been 3 years on the go. It's called Pure Results. It's really bringing the concept of wellness to people's lives. You're actually doing what you are telling other people to do. You're actually getting involved in programs to make people fitter, more health conscious.
Yeah.
But this came out of your travels, really. It came out of your love of travel.
Yeah.
You discovered this abroad and brought it home.
Yeah. So I would say I probably have 3 loves of my life. I love people, I love fitness, and I love travel. So as you were saying there, I think when you do 10 years on No Frontiers, it becomes addictive. It is still an absolute passion of mine. If I don't get away at least once or twice a year, I sort of crack up. And even after No Frontiers finished, it took me a long time to sort of steady the ship because I was away for sort of 6-7 months of the year, you know.
And one thing I only discovered when I did No Frontiers myself is it's hard work. When you're writing, you actually go meet people, you sidle up to them, you pick up conversations. You're actually walking up and down in front of a camera 8 times from different angles, saying the same thing over and over again.
Well, for me, it was
really
only once
hard
or twice
work.
because I was obviously better at it than you. But
Okay, I'm a learner. Okay.
But it was an amazing time. It was hard work, absolutely. But I suppose what I loved about it was the opportunity to see the places that I was never ever going to see again, and it also sort of afforded me when the crew, well, like we would be working of a crew, there may be a 1 or 2 man crew, or you know, back in the good days there was 4 or 5 people, and then as the years went on, it sort of diminished.
Talk me through a day, because most people have never been behind the scenes of a travel show. It's tough work. It's 8 in the morning till 10 or 11 at night.
Yeah. Yeah, it depends. So I was brought on for No Frontiers to do the independent travel strand. So the show had been running for 3 years at that point, and they were doing lots of different package holidays and 5-star holidays. But at the time, independent travel was becoming the buzzword. It was becoming the keyword. So, and they literally did it. They incorporated into the show in the way that it should have been done, and in the right way, is that you were sent off, small camera, a microphone, and 500 quid, and you had to get from Mali in through Senegal, and you were sort of 2 weeks on the road. So when you were doing the kind of independent travel, there was no hours, there was no nothing. You flew in, you made stuff up as you went. We started, and I can't believe I'm saying this because I do actually sound like my mother or father. Like, there were no mobile phones. Internet was just kind of getting going there in the late 90s. So my poor father, I would just ring him beforehand to say, I'm off to Africa, and he'd go, Jesus Mary, where are you going? What are you doing? And so the days were just so varied. I mean, you were on the move all day, you were shooting all day, you were eating when you could, you were traveling, but it was the best crack, those couple of years, because I was only in my early 20s. So those couple of years learning about the world, seeing places that I'd never seen before, spending 2 or 3 weeks going across Africa, traveling through South America. And it was just me. I did a lot of travel with a girl called Judy Kelly. And I loved those kind of trips as well, because you'd find yourself in situations where, as two women with equipment worth a lot of money and nothing but a bit of cash on you.
Dangerous.
There were kind of a few hairy moments, but it also made you very aware of how to manage yourself when you were traveling, and very aware of and perceptive as to how how you were seen as two women traveling on your own. But it also made me realize, that when you look after yourself and when you kind of gauge your surroundings, that comes with a certain confidence as well, because as I said, I love traveling on my own, and I didn't love traveling on my own the first time I did it, but when I went off to Thailand, and I made myself go on my own, because I wanted to I thought I would be one of those travelers who can, eat, pray, love, and disappear on my own, but I was bricking it, and I went and I did it for the first time, and it was hard, because you have to eat on your own and, find restaurants and, all that sort of stuff as a woman on your own. But I think those formative years in No Frontiers allowed me kind of travel with confidence, and I think to a certain degree, if you look confident and you act confident and you kind of, you carry yourself in a certain way, it does stand to you as a solo traveler.
That's your big tip to a woman traveling on her own.
Yeah, I don't think
look
there's
like
any
you know where you're going.
Yeah, I don't think there's any point in going away on your own if you're not 100% comfortable. I mean, you have to push yourself outside your comfort zone, but I've seen too many women, I suppose, travel on their own, say in India, for example, and they're racing from the hotel door to get into a taxi, and it's just all too much, and it's all, it just makes the trip less enjoyable. So when I used to travel on my own with No Frontiers, if I did find or if the crew went home and I'd stay on a week or two, if I did find my own company a bit much, I would check into like a yoga group, or I'd go hiking up in Montana, or I'd do surf camps. So I loved the idea of having the freedom to travel on your own, but there were always these camps or retreats or centres that you could meet like-minded people, get a bit of company, feel safe. If you were bored with yourself and it all became a bit too strenuous.
So what were you seeking? Safety and companionship?
Yeah, and like-minded people, and an ease, because if you've traveled on your own for maybe 2 or 3 weeks, and you're kind of, I'm somebody who loves people. I love company. I love the chats. And sometimes I just got bored with myself and I'd want to check in somewhere. And, if you went to a surfing camp, there was going to be like-minded people. Or if you went to a yoga retreat, there'd be like-minded people. So I loved that kind of meeting strangers, but in a kind of a controlled environment.
And what did you see that you said, I want to bring this to Ireland? What is the one resort that really inspired you to bring Pure Results back to Ireland?
Probably a place called Samathiram, which was an Ayurvedic yoga retreat. It's in Kerala in India, and Ayurveda is kind of the ancient form of Indian medicine, if you like, and it's all about healing, and they use a lot of different techniques, ancient techniques. So I took myself off to one of those. I didn't read the small print on the leaflet that I was handed, because it said it was a 3-week silent retreat. So for me, that was, I lasted sort of 2 or 3 days, and then kind of said, geez, what am I doing here? But it was
you
amazing.
You could have gone to the Poor Clares or something.
Exactly. But it was, it was wonderful, and I just think the sense of support, like you could whisper in the evenings, that sort of thing, and the sense of support and the sense of camaraderie and the sense of intrigue, because you're meeting people from all different walks of life who are all there for their different reasons. Some people were there to get away from it all. Some people were there to start again. Some people were there just to kind of, have a nice holiday. So I loved the different people, the dynamic of the group coming together. So
now, Pure Results has moved around a bit. What is the idea? Are you going to change your location from year to year? And what sort of an experience do you want people to get out of Pure Results?
Okay, so I suppose, with doing the last 7 years of Operation Transformation, and Ireland is thankfully now riding this wave of wellness. And my whole idea when I set up Pure Results Bootcamp was that, trying to get fit and trying to be healthy and trying to change your lifestyle doesn't have to be no fun. Like, it doesn't have to be no crack. I know the word boot camp can kind of scare people a little bit, I think, because you just have visions of sergeant majors and, shouting and screaming at you. But what I wanted to create was a place to go where you could be the most unfit person in the world or the most fit person in the world. So over the last 2 years in our camp, we're 85% women. We've had everybody from 16 to 75, and everybody is nervous coming down because they go, am I going to be able to do this week, or am I going to be able to complete the weekend? And I say absolutely yes all the time, because you're just working to your own ability. And the job of the trainers, we have a bank of trainers on site, we have 2 chefs, we have a nutritionist, we have a mindfulness coach. And what I'm not an expert in anything, because I'm still learning myself. So what I do is assemble this group of people, and they work with the individual clients that come. So we max is 30 people per week. And the idea is that come down if you have fallen off the wagon, if you have never had any level of fitness in your life, if you don't know where to start, if you don't know what to eat. It's a kind of a safe environment to come and learn. And that's what I want people to do, is to go away with something, because it's very easy, if you want to lose weight, it's very easy to come down to a place like ours, be told what to eat, be told how to run, be told to do an extra 10 push-ups, with lots of support and lots of encouragement, get great sleep, because you've no job to think about, you've no cooking to think about, you've no husband or wife, and it's kind of a week for people to give back to themselves. So what we created was this 2-week aftercare program. So when you're on site for a week, we give you a 2-week aftercare program then, which is all your meal plans, it's all your training plans. So the idea is that you can everybody's in it together, and you have a different training plan and a different food plan than I would, and vice versa.
How much does it cost, Kathryn?
The prices start from €999 for a week, and that's for all your food, accommodation, and all your personal training classes.
That's based in Park Nasilla and Mount Falcon.
Yeah, so we're based in Park Nasilla for March and April, and then in Mount Falcon in Ballina from May right through to the end of the season in October.
And this all came out of your little escapes, because what would happen was you would go away, do your No Frontiers, the crew would all dispersed, and you would stay on. And what other countries did you stay on? What did Kathryn Thomas actually do when the cameras' lights had gone off and you actually had time to organise your own travel as opposed to doing what was on the itinerary?
Yeah, generally what would happen was, because the days were so intense, like when you're filming and as I said, you could be working 15, 16-hour days, because the budgets, as the shows went on, the RTE budgets were always slashed. So eventually a 4-day shoot became a 3-day shoot, became a 2-day shoot. So it was manic, and it was insane, and it was brilliant, and you're traveling with, they become your best friends, because after 10 years, I was kind of the last woman standing at that stage, because the cameramen and the sound men, as the years went on, got married and had kids, and then it was like, what do you mean you're going away to South America for 3 weeks? So so they were pretty intense. So if I stayed on my own, I sort of would take a day or two and lounge around on the beach, or kind of chill out. But I'm not very good at that. Like when I'm away, I'm just too much of an explorer. I always want to get lost. I always want to discover what's out there. I'm intrigued by the world. I'm every time I go away, it's like an adrenaline rush for me.
How tough was it? A 15-hour day. What happens? You get out of bed at 7. You go down to the beach. You're walking up and down, doing presentation.
Yeah, so
performance.
Yeah, so for example, if you were in Thailand and you had to cover 3 or 4 different hotels in Thailand, so you'd get up, you'd have somebody from the tourist board with you, you'd have to do, go into X hotel, do the rooms, do the pool, get out, you're learning your script, back in, change your outfits, do your links. So it wasn't very glamorous, but it was always good fun because the people that you were working with. You see, I suppose, again, the difference with print journalism, if you're going out to review a place, you go and you experience it and then you come home and you write about it. But when you're there, as you said, you have to deliver it. You have to kind of...
One thing that occurred to me is you've just landed and you're supposed to be giving a verdict on somewhere that you've only arrived the night before. You're actually telling the camera that this is what it's like, and you really don't know what it's like.
Yeah.
You've got very good at that, obviously.
Well, and there's a lot of research that goes into it beforehand. There's a lot of there's probably about 3 or 4 weeks of research that goes into it.
And you had to pack clothes, so you had to look your best. So how did you manage packing? Did you end up with 5, 6 suitcases?
I think if you look back on No Frontiers, now that I look back, I would argue that I never looked my best. And you know what? It was quite scary. Last year, I had to do a show reel, which I was sending over to England. I was sending it over to the UK, and they were saying, "Oh, you used to do travel, and how long ago did you do it?" And I didn't want to let them know that I was kind of in my late 30s for this job that I was going for. So I said, "Oh, I did it for a few years," and they said, "Oh, send us some stuff, send us a show reel." So I had to watch 10 years of myself. And from the time I was 21 to the time I was 31.
That's not fair.
I watched it over the space of a weekend, and I watched myself age 10 years in 2 days, which was the most horrific.
We used to meet in airports quite a lot, and we used to recommend things to each other. I recommended my favourite place in the world is Ladakh in India.
Oh, yeah.
And I said it to Kathryn, and she did a programme for Ladakh. Ladakh is special, isn't it?
It is amazing, amazing. And and I suppose no more than you guys sitting here, you're here because you love holidays and you love travel. I was always very careful, I suppose, when I got home, because my friends were in college and they were working 2 jobs and all that, and I'd want to come in and talk about the Himalayas and, the tribe that we met in Papua New Guinea. And I was very conscious not to, because
That's what happened in the other direction. I went to Papua New Guinea on your recommendation. But Papua New Guinea was a disaster for you. You got malaria.
I did, but it was still the best trip that we have ever done. It was brilliant. It was probably the most insane adventure that we ever had, because I was trying to go to Papua New Guinea for 3 years, and RTE, the broadcaster, were like, "Why are you going to Papua New Guinea? Who the hell is going to want to go there?" And I said, "No, but you're missing the point. This is all about armchair travel, and if we can bring, these ancient tribes and into people's sitting rooms, that's our job, And I'll never forget it, because it was my nana, God rest her, and she said, when we went to the Himalayas, she was like, "Geez, it was great." She's from Kerry. She was like, "It was great. I was able to be there with you, going to the Himalayas."
That sums it up. That's what you did for the whole population of Ireland. To your credit, Kathryn.
But for anyway, 3 years we were trying to get to Papua New Guinea, and finally I went into RTE and they said, "Right, okay, you can go." And we arranged to go, and it was the last frontier. It was the final frontier. It was kind of the last bastion of that sort of independent travel that nobody had touched. And we landed in to the airport in Port Moresby, which is the most dangerous city in the world, or I don't know if it still is.
I'm going to sum up Papua New Guinea. Think of all the guys you were in school with when you were 15 and give them all machetes. That's what Papua New Guinea's like.
Yeah, and there was still a question over whether there were cannibalistic tribes.
Yeah, there are trials occasionally for cannibalism. My brother-in-law, when he heard I was going to Papua New Guinea, he said I'd be safe because the last Irish person they put in the pot ate all the potatoes. But they still have cannibalism.
Yeah, and of course I wanted to do it because I had seen this program Tribe on the Discovery Channel about these 2 guys who'd gone and lived with a tribe in Papua New Guinea. So I had left that bit out of the pitch to RTE, right? I said we were going looking at hummingbirds, but we had arranged to do this 3-day trek into the jungle in the Northern Highlands. But anyway, when we landed into Port Moresby Airport, and there were these Digicel posters everywhere, right? And I said, "Digicel?" I said, "Jesus, it's Dennis O'Brien. Don't tell me he's managed to get here as well as everywhere else." And we're walking through collecting the bag, and who runs past us? Only Dennis O'Brien, and he has his linen suit on, and the private plane is outside.
He's very afraid.
Yeah. And he turned around to me and he said, "Jeez, you know, because I've met him a few times through the Special Olympics. He said, Jesus, he said, Kathryn, don't tell me you're promoting holidays here in Papua New Guinea. He said, is that what you're doing here? And I said, well, you know, it's all about independent travel. And I said, well, what are you doing here? He said, I've just established, he was taking over the whole of the Caribbean. He'd set up in Haiti and all that. And he said, do you know how dangerous it is? And I said, no, it's fine. You know, we've got everything under control. And he said, have you got security? Have you a security detail? And I was like, we couldn't even afford, you know, the 3-star hotel, the security detail. So he actually ended up putting us in touch with his, you know, his security people. He had 15 Irish young guys and girls, students who'd gone out there and who'd set up the office. So this huge, like, guy comes up, and Mark, who was our cameraman, who is like all into the gadgets and the toys and the cameras, and this guy comes up and he like opens this black case and there's like satellite phones, and he's like, have this, and there's $800 worth of credit. And I said, no. I said, we don't need any of that. We're going to get lost. And I was completely overruled. The 2 boys just went, not a bit of it. They took 3 satellite phones. They took something else, a flare. They took all sorts. And we had your man's number. And in fairness, it was quite the adventure. We ended up getting lost. The guides that were with us turned on us when we were 3 days up the river. They took all our money, all our water, stole watches, everything. And that was the part that didn't end up on camera. So it was possibly, the most out there experience that I ever had. But because it was an adventure, and because I will never forget it, and because you again learned to handle yourself in a situation like that, it was probably the best trip that we ever did. Taking on board that I got malaria while I was there as well.
And the malaria. You've been to all these countries, hadn't got malaria, they suddenly struck you there, yeah?
Yeah, it's not nice.
The other thing about Papua New Guinea, and it's quite astonishing, is the languages.
Yes.
There are 830 languages, so sometimes the people from Donnybrook don't know what the people from Ball's Bridge are saying, because they speak not a different dialect, but a completely different language.
Yeah, and there's 2 main roads in Papua New Guinea, isn't there? Like there's a road going up this way and a road going up that way, and everything else it's just little airfields. So you fly, you know, everybody has to sort of fly everywhere, and I was so surprised as to how kind of dense the vegetation was.
Have we a roving mic in the room for the audience? And I'll ask Kathryn, you know every airport in the world, virtually every airport in the world. What's your favourite? What's the best airport that you've gone through?
Singapore, I think.
Yeah, Changi in Singapore.
Yeah.
And the best go on.
And the best in Europe.
Yeah.
When the fog isn't there, and I don't know why, because I know a lot of people don't like it, Schiphol.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sometimes in Schiphol Airport, like I've been caught so many times with the fog in there, but I don't know why I like it as much as I do, but yeah, I kind of like the vibe.
Anybody put up your hand for if you have a question? I think I have a roving mic going around there. Can we come in to organise roving mics, or any of the yellow t-shirt people?
There's a lady here.
Great.
I'd love to go to South Africa and drive, not do the actual package deal, or down to Cape Town. Now, Tom has been there on a rugby trip, but I'd like to drive and go around and see the area, and I was wondering about the safety element of it. That's all.
I have been to Cape Town 3 or 4 times now at this stage. Not for the last 3 years, I'd say. So I don't know how much it's changed in the last couple of years.
It hasn't got better.
It hasn't got better, yeah. I mean, the first time we went out, what really took me, really kind of, everywhere I looked, it was all white people that were in your hotel, and it was just all the black South Africans that were on the doors with, their security. And everywhere that we travelled, we went with a recommended guide. Now, there's friends of mine who've been on honeymoon there, who've loved it. Again, I suppose it depends on the resort that you're going. But that drive from Cape Town, what's the drive up the coast?
The Garden Trail, and the Wine Trail are the two that people go into, Stellenbosch and Franz Hoek. But Kathryn's right, you actually do not immerse in the community. And when incidents arise, it tends to be people moving from there's almost a tourist paths with security. What had been happening in some of the towns, Cape Town, and Durban especially was ATMs close to hotels were being targeted.
Yeah.
They seem to have got their act together very, very seriously on that. When the World Cup was held in South Africa, I was really impressed what happened in both Cape Town and in Durban, where the seafront, which was almost a no-go area, became more walkable. But it's still a problem. Muggings are still a problem. And it's not the most dangerous place in the world, but it's the most dangerous that Irish people go in large numbers. I'm also interested in what's happening in Johannesburg. People are trying to bring the downtown back and encourage people walking through downtown Johannesburg. Still an issue, though. I wouldn't say, do it lightheartedly, but a lot of people go to South Africa and stay straight into Cape Town and brought up the countryside. That tends to be safe.
So you would do it in a tour, in an organised
Absolutely,
tour.
and honeymooners. It's one of the number one honeymoon destinations out of Ireland. One long haul honeymoon does.
It is beautiful. It's beautiful, and the food is incredible as well.
And the real safari, that's not real safari, by the way. That's the equivalent of Photo Park. The real safari, you've got to go up to Kruger National Park, or even better, into countries like Botswana and Kenya. You've done a lot of safari.
Yeah, safari.
You did a great night safari in Kenya.
Yeah, the safari in Kenya is probably one of the best trips that I ever did. It was my first safari, and the reason that I enjoyed it as much as I did was because we weren't in, a lot of them that you organise, you get into the minibuses and you're kind of, fighting to get out the window with your camera.
Stadium tourism.
Yeah, and this one, it was, what was the name of it? I'll think of it. It was in Kenya, and it was run by an English father and son. And it was only 12 tents. So they picked you up, and the tents were stunning. Like, they had hardwood floors and beautiful beds.
Tents is the wrong word for this. They're actually installed with an ensuite toilet, but they want you to feel like you're an explorer with the white hat from long ago.
But what I remember about the tents or the accommodation was they had a net all the way around, right? So you could see out, and then at the night time you could Velcro up. It was like a big army tent, so you could Velcro up. But in the night or in the morning, you Velcro it down, and you're lying in bed, and you can just see giraffe. You can see elephants in the distance, and then the Maasai tribe come and they hoist up in a cow's stomach hot water. So they use the hot. The stomach of a cow, and they fill it with hot water and they hoist it up, and that's your shower. So you've got kind of 2 or 3 minutes of a hot shower. Incredible, though, because you really feel that you've kind of had the experience of, the wildlife is around you as opposed to you having to go and find it.
We have a question at the back.
Hi, Kathryn. Just wanted to ask, on your travels, what do you tell people is the must-see place in Ireland, apart from Dublin?
The must-see place in Ireland. I am a Kerry girl through and through. My mother is from Kerry. She was born in Kenmare, so she still has a lot of family down there and a lot of connections down there, and I love it. Kerry is just, I love the west of Ireland and everything, all along the Wild Atlantic Way. But there's just something bold and awesome and grand and just beautiful about Kerry. West Kerry as well. We've got relations in West Kerry. But Kenmare, and probably my favourite place in Ireland that I think more people should know about, is a park called the Gleninchiquin National Park. And it's on the Two Sist Road. It's absolutely stunning. It's owned by, it's private land actually, owned by a farmer called Donal Corry. And himself and his 2 sons, I tried unsuccessfully to court one of his sons when I realised that he owned all of this land about 7 years ago. And they're beautiful, they're beautiful people, and it's beautiful countryside. So
is it good news or bad news that Star Wars arrived there?
I think bad news. I think bad news for Kerry, but good news for the economy, good news for Star Wars fans. But, when you hear that they're building replica Skellig Michaels and all sorts of stuff and having plastic Darth Vaders all over the place, I'm kind of like, it's a bit Barack Obama Plaza. But, it's going to bring the money in, so who are we to argue with that?
And if you were to extricate yourself from Kerry, I know difficult as it is, what part of Ireland is your favourite? What would you hold up to visitors and say, this is it?
Where else? Do you know where I was? Donegal. I went up to Donegal, and I had not been. Again, the north of Ireland is somewhere that I keep saying every year, I have to go back. I have to get up to Belfast more. My sister was up there. She went to the Holiday World last weekend up there. And she just said the people, she had great crack. They went out in the night out afterwards. And she said just the friendliness of Belfast she loved. But we went up to Donegal and we stayed in Harvey's Point for a few nights, which I hadn't been up to before.
TripAdvisor Hotel of the Year for the fourth year,
yeah.
for the fourth year running.
Incredible. The welcome is absolutely incredible. Noel just runs the ship up there, and he's amazing. But there's a place called the Sleeve League Cliffs. I'd never heard of.
Higher than Moher.
Higher than the Cliffs of Moher. I think they're the highest in Europe or something like that. And I had never heard of them. And so we went out there, and we spent 6 hours just sitting admiring. It was just stunning.
I couldn't commend that. We have another question at the back here.
No, it's just a comment really about Papua New Guinea. And my sister, who's a religious sister, has been living there since 1971. And it's a pity that Kathryn didn't get farther up, where she would have met Irish people in a place called Aishapay. But anyway, just to say that
is a very good point. There's a very strong missionary presence.
Yeah.
And everywhere you go in Papua New Guinea, they say, oh, my teacher was from Ireland. Yeah. And there's this great camaraderie with the Irish that they immediately feel. Yes. So thank you. Very, very good point.
They are very welcoming people, but of course their culture is completely different to ours, so one has to respect that.
Thank you very much. We have a question here in the second row as well.
Kathryn, if you could only have one more trip, where would you go?
If I could only have one more trip, I would go back to the Antarctic. It is, I suppose we see so much of it now, and all the Planet Earth, all the David Attenborough stuff. He's my ultimate hero. Well, himself and Tom Crean, I have a little bit of a love affair, and I always have done with Tom Crean and Shackleton, and we got to go down to the Antarctic.
Tom's from Kerry, so
yes,
you're really
and a skull, and. It's like another planet, and when you're down there, it's very expensive to go. It's really a once-in-a-lifetime sort of experience. It's about €8,000, I think, at this point now to go and do 10 days out there. But that's your food. It's all your, we went with a company
one
called
of the
Peregrine
specialists is
Adventures.
in the hall here. The Herty Rutan, Daniel Giles from Herty Rutan. They do trips down from Ushuaia. Talk us through the trip down.
Yeah, so you
from
go down to
Ushuaia,
which is the most southerly point in Argentina, and it's very much like a kind of a last. It's like it is like the last frontier. It's kind of it's lots of stories of sailors and traders down there, and you jump on the ship in Ushuaia and you go 2 days across the straits before you end up in the Antarctic. And
it's a very stormy passage.
It's a stormy one, so lots of seasick tablets. And I remember there was a couple who were celebrating their 50th wedding anniversary, and they were on the ship. They were from the States, and it was like they'd saved up. This was their entire life. They were ready to go, and this is what they wanted to do. And God love him, she was fine, but he just really struggled for the 3 or 4 days. But the whole ship came together. There was only 90 of us on the ship, and we were from Ireland and Sweden and Germany and the States, and it was incredible. And because basically what you do is you go down, and then the boat is lovely and warm, and it's quite not luxurious. It's not like a cruise liner, but it's basic. It was an old Russian research vessel, but it's all very comfortable.
Ice-reinforced hull. A lot of these, after the breakup of the Soviet Union, they came on the market relatively cheap. Exploration companies bought them, and at night time, you ride up on the ice and it cracks and goes down. It's the most amazing sound as you're hearing. But you're right.
And you take a rib then, so you're all thermaled up on all your gear, and you get out on one of the ribs and you go through the ice, and the icebergs. I never knew icebergs were the color that they are, like this blue that you can't even imagine. Even when you see it on the telly, when you're up close to them, it's incredible. And it's again the sound. It's just utter silence, and you're in this white universe that doesn't feel like planet Earth, and you just go through the ice. And we spent one night actually camping on the ice. I think there was only 7 or 8 of us that did it, and we set up tents. And it's bright there most of the year. When you actually get down, it's kind of the daylight hours are sort of, 10, 11 hours of daylight, 12 hours a day, or sorry, 20 hours of daylight
December
a day.
is the cruise season, so it's almost, it's midnight sun. It's the equivalent of Norway in summer here, so it's their summer.
And I remember getting up out of the bed because I didn't know what time it was, what day it was. You're kind of in this dream world, and opened up my tent, and there was like 11 elephant seals just sitting there, and I remember sitting there for an hour. It was just incredible. So I would probably say safari is an amazing experience that if you can experience it once, but if you can experience it that once and save up to go somewhere like that, that for me is...
And you have Antarctica people in the hall here today. We also have safari people. Kathryn, Thomas, we could speak forever on this, on that wonderful image of the sea lions. We've one more question if you want to come in. Thank you so much, Kathryn.
No worries.
Thank you very much, Kathryn. I just feel I have to say I agree 100% with everything you said. I'm actually back at the end of November from Antarctica. I did it with Hurtigruten, and I just don't have superlatives adequate to describe it. Oh. And I must say, I'm almost an honorary Kerry person, not man, at this stage. I have great admiration for two people. One is Monsignor O'Flaherty and the other is Tom Crean. I bow in reverence before him, and we had the privilege of seeing on part of the track, obviously from the ground, that Tom Crean and Shackleton crossed in South Georgia and descended behind the waterfall. Wow. And got to the whaling station in South Georgia and were unrecognisable because they looked so scruffy from months of their problem there that I won't go into. But I would suggest to everybody to save your money. It's the best money you'll ever spend. And what you didn't mention was the quality of the lectures on the Hurtigruten ship. Yeah. They are superb on so many levels, and they've so many experts. Frankly, it's the best money I ever spent, or some of it anyway. I spent a lot of foolish money. So can I suggest to everybody here to start saving the pennies? They soon become euros, and thank you very much.
Well done. I can't agree with you more.
You've been a great, great audience. Typical Kerry fashion, when Tom Crean arrived back in Annascaul, for years afterwards, his nickname was Tom the Pole. Thank you very much, Kathryn, Thomas. A round of applause. It's a joy to be back and meeting you again, and we'll meet in an airport again soon. Thank you.
Thank you, darling. Great to see you.
Well done. That's great.